Hi, Wilsey here. I'm gonna be making a video that's kind of more of a personal kind of Splatoon video, I guess. So about a week ago maybe, I hit my 1 year of playing competitive Splatoon. Because when I originally joined my team, it was early October. I don't actually know the exact date, but it was sometime towards the beginning of October, so now we're at like the middle of October, a year later, and I just want to make a video going over sort of my history in competitive competitive Splatoon and sort of where I've come from then. And in the background right now, I've got video footage of my first ever tournament with Xanadu. You can see Howdy is actually Matt. He changed his name a few times since the beginning of the team, but he's kind of stuck with Crush for a while now. And then we also still had Icy at this time. So it's kind of like an interesting look back at the very start of the team that you wouldn't normally see, because I didn't start streaming until a decent ways into our team existing. This is just like a top-down that I had saved from the loading stream. But yeah, when I first joined, it was kind of like, it's kind of a weird situation because I had been having, I've mentioned this since then because the issues came up again, but I had been having eyesight issues where, not necessarily eyesight issues itself, but like, my eyes didn't make enough tears to lubricate themselves. And so I went to multiple different doctors about it and had to deal with a lot of, like, I spent like the entire summer trying to deal with that issue. And so that's kind of when I got interested in competitive Splatoon. But at the time, because of the eye issues, I couldn't actually play the game for more than like half an hour at a time without like my eyes just starting to burn. And so that's kind of where in kind of a unique part of my own starting into Splatoon came into play, because at that point in time I was really interested in competitive Splatoon, but I couldn't actually play the game due to health issues. So I kind of went hardcore into learning about competitive Splatoon. And I started watching tournaments. I was with like the intention of kind of analyzing it and trying to figure out what people are doing, why they're doing it, why it's working. And not too long into that, I found FLC. So at the time, I'd been watching Sendo a lot, and Sendo just shared one of FLC's VOD reviews to Twitter. I watched it and it's just like, wow, there's actually somebody who knows what they're talking about and actually can actually explain all this kind of things. So that's kind of, I found a few other people who did VOD reviews from top level. It was mostly FLC is where I really started learning the actual strategy aspect of Splatoon. And so that's kind of where I was at when I joined the team. I had just gotten to the point where I had actually fixed my eye issue, was able to play the game again, but I still had very little actual experience in the game. Most of what I knew was from watching tournaments and watching FLC's VOD reviews and all that sort of thing, which is a really strange place to start, because most people start with the experience and then get the knowledge later, but I started with the knowledge and got the experience later. And so, when I first started, I think I'd just gotten my second X rank, and I hadn't even started looking for a team yet. Basically, I was in that RSW dude's server, for Discord server, and Matt had seen me talking in there. I was just like, this person seems to know what they're talking about. Which, I mean, I didn't know as much as I felt like it did. But yeah, my understanding of the game has definitely come a long way since then, but I did have a pretty solid grasp of the game at the time, so it's just like, I pretty much got drafted into the team based on just knowing what I was talking about and not experience in any way. I was like, I think I was like level 60 at the time. I'm still in S+ for most of my modes, and Yeah, I was definitely the weakest player on the team at the beginning. I still kind of feel like I'm the weakest player on the team, just from a mechanical standpoint, but at the beginning it felt even more so, like that was the case. So I joined the team without even trying out, really. I had just gotten to the point in time where I could play the game again. And it was kind of this interesting thing. So at the time, I wanted to play a variety of things in order to have more chances to look for teams. So I wanted an aggressive weapon pool, and I wanted a backline weapon pool. Because when I first started playing the game, I was a heavy main. Like, that's just what I played from, like, level 10 or so. And I pretty much have not dropped heavy since then. It's kind of become a secondary weapon for me now, but it's a weapon I've never dropped for more than a short period of time. But I kind of want to have more options to give myself more chances to find a team. So I've kind of picked up Dynamo and Explosher to kind of round up my backline pool. I also played Hydra. Actually, at the time, I just played Dynamo for fun. I didn't think it was actually worth playing competitively. I didn't think a team would want me playing Dynamo. So, like, yeah, like, I had a strange opinion of Dynamo at the time. I thought it was really fun, but I didn't think anyone would want a Dynamo player on the team. So it's pretty much Heavy, Explosher, and Hydra were, like, my backline weapons. And then for more aggro weapons, I played Tenebrella and K-Machine. Tenebrella because I actually really like Brella class. I don't really like playing Splatbrella. Something about playing it just feels off for me. But I used to play Ken's Undercover Brella when that was meta, and I played Tent a decent bit. So I pretty much just picked up K-Machine because Sendo and a couple other Tent players also played K-Machine. I've honestly never really cared that much for the weapon, and it was just what Tent players played as their ult at the time. In my eyes, at least. So I joined the team with that weapon pool. And they were looking for a backline, so I played Heavy and Hydra. Pretty much like a week into playing with the team, I kind of experimented with some things, and I found that Ballpoint was really strong. This was months before Ballpoint became like the meta weapon everyone played. And I just kind of experimented with things. I was just like, you know, this was not long after that big Stingray nerf, where everyone dropped Stingray, and then slowly went back to it over the next few months, but I had been playing the Ray Heavy since the beginning of the game, pretty much. So I started playing Remix, but I was also trying some other things, and it was just like, Ballpoint Nouveau just seems so much better than Remix in every way. And I do think that was the truth at the time. That wasn't just me not having to understand the game. Like, Ballpoint Nouveau was just straight up better than Remix at almost everything. And so I pretty much dropped Remix Heavy in order to focus on Ballpoint like a week after I joined the team. But at the time I still played Hydra for a little bit, mostly as like a tower control thing. But I did end up dropping Hydra as well and just pretty much playing solo Ballpoint for a while. And that's around the time when Matt originally had to leave the team for about a month or two. I think it was less than 2 months, but it was over a month, so. And that kind of put us in an interesting situation, because the fourth player we picked up to replace him was actually a Charger player. And so I had to kind of pick up the Slayer role, and Tent and K-Machine just didn't feel like they really fit our team comp, which put me in a weird position. Because we have Tetras. We've had the Tetras since the beginning of the team started. That's pretty much been the one constant about our team, has been like playing Tetras. So when Matt left and I had to fill in the Slayer role, it was just like, I need something that fits with Tetras, and Tent and K-Machine both fell off, because Tent kind of does something similar to Tetras, but Tetras are fast and Tent is slow, so it just felt like there was this disconnect in the team. And then with K-Machine is double splashdown, and we didn't want double splashdown. So that's kind of when I picked up Slosher, and then I also played CES and Splattershot on maps where Slosher wasn't as good. And that's also when I first picked up Sploosh, which has kind of been like a on and off thing in my weapon pool since then. So this was around December last year, which is a couple months into the team existing. So like, at that point I wanted to be a Slosher main, but I wasn't good enough at it yet, which is why I was also playing Splattershot and CDS on maps where Slosher wasn't as strong. But that was kind of an interesting time period, but I don't think I could ever actually be a Slayer for an extended period of time. It's just, it doesn't really appeal to me as much personally. And so when Matt kind of was able to play the game again, and we were talking, I pretty much just said I want to go back to backline. And our Charger player wasn't, like, she was a good person, or like a fun person to play the game with, but she wasn't like competitively minded, and she wasn't like that good of a player, which is fine because I don't think she really wanted to play competitively. She just kind of had a passing interest in it. So at that point we kind of went back to our original roster with Leke, Icy, Matt, and me, and I went back to playing Ballpoint. And this was kind of when I started just not wanting to play Ballpoint anymore. It didn't take too long. I don't know. I don't remember how long it took before I really started getting bored with Ballpoint, but I just played Ballpoint so much, and Ballpoint just isn't as fun to me as the other Splatlings. Because part of what makes Splatlings fun for me is making the most out of the charge mechanic. It's not about having the kill threat at long range or the strafing or anything. I like having the charge mechanic and having that sort of balance of the strength and the weakness that comes with it. We have to make the most out of every charge, and you have to avoid not having a charge in situations where you would want to charge. And Ballpoint just doesn't have that because you can just recharge anytime. And the whole recharge mechanic just made the weapon unfun to me. It felt like I was just shooting constantly and not doing anything smart. And on top of that, the two fire modes between the short range feigning mode and the long range mode just kind of felt awkward switching between the two, and that's something, like, even if I did well with the weapon, it just felt awkward to play, and that was not something I enjoyed. So around that point was I started trying to find something to take over for Ballpoint. At the time, I still didn't think Heavy was worth playing over Ballpoint, which this was still before Ballpoint nerfed, or like everyone was still playing Ballpoint at the time. But I kind of experimented with a bunch of different things. I played Explosher, I played Bamboo, I tried playing Hydra again. Hydra's something I've picked up and then dropped over and over again throughout the history of the team, because it's a weapon I personally really enjoy, but it just never really fits with our Tetras because of the disconnect between the fast-paced aggression of the Tetras and the slow control of the Hydra. So it just never really feels like it makes sense for the team, but I also legitimately think it's a really fun weapon and keep trying to make it work anyways. But yeah, that's kind of around when I started playing Dynamo competitively, because I pretty much dropped Dynamo the moment I joined the team, because I didn't think the team would want a Dynamo player. I don't think I even mentioned that I played Dynamo, I just said I was a Heavy player. So I think it was around January, like maybe a few weeks after I started playing backline again, that I started kind of trying to make Dynamo work in a competitive setting as like a backline Dynamo. And it worked pretty well. And so from there I kind of just slowly started playing Dynamo more and more often. It started as sort of just something I played on a few short range maps like Reef and Mako Mart. But eventually I kind of started playing Dynamo in most situations, and only playing ballpoint on things like albacore and triggerfish, etc. And that's also probably around when I started trying to play heavy. Actually, that's not quite true. Because the entire time I played ballpoint, I tried playing heavy again. I didn't think Remix was worth playing, which is the main thing. But I thought Vanilla was worth playing on good Ray maps. I thought Deco was worth playing on good bubble maps. So I kind of went on and off playing Vanilla heavy and heavy Deco, but I would not play Remix for pretty much since the second week of joining the team. I just didn't think Remix was worth playing over ballpoint. I still think Remix is kind of weird. It's like, it's the best all-around heavy, but it's the worst heavy when one of the other two is good. Like if you can make Vanilla Heavy work, it's better. If you can make Deco work, it's better. But both of those weapons are more situational, whereas Remix is kind of like always equally okay. Like no matter what map and mode you play, Remix is fine. It's never anything amazing, but it's never bad. It's just okay all the time. But yeah, at the time when I picked up Dynamo around January, I think it was around the end of January, I kind of just slowly started playing Dynamo more often, and eventually we decided to pick up a 5th member because we kept having at times where we would only have 3 people available and we wanted to scrim or play a tournament. So we started looking for a 5th member, and that's when we got Leo to join. At the time we were looking for like Slayer support, and I was going to continue playing like backline Dynamo. But not really backline Dynamo, more like we wanted to play Anchorless with Dynamo and then ballpoint or heavy on long range maps. So that's around the time like Leo joined, because he wasn't really what we were looking for. But at the time, like Bamboo was severely underrated. It's still a very strong and underrated weapon, but it's been nerfed multiple times since then, and like nobody was playing it back then when it was even stronger. So I saw a good Bamboo player and was just like, I want to have that on the team, even if that means I don't play backline anymore. And so Leo joined the team as a Bamboo main, and I started focusing more on even more on Dynamo. I pretty much played Gold Dynamo instead of Kensa to support the team more and be the armor player. And that's kind of how things went, where I switched from playing a backline to being more of a midline flex that I am now. Alright, since that video ended with the first tournament we had, this is going to be the January of this year low ink one set we had there. It's not the most exciting set because it was a little one-sided. The second game was actually surprisingly close, but yeah, you can see this is around the time I picked up Dynamo, before Leo joined. So this is kind of an interesting period where it's like after I became a Dynamo player, but before we had a Bamboo. You know, I was still playing heavy on heavy and ballpoint in a lot of situations here. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to talking what I was talking about. So yeah, Leo joined, we had Bamboo, and then eventually, like I was pretty content with playing being a Dynamo main. When ballpoint got nerfed, I went back to pretty much playing heavy as my only range splatling. Because even though we had a Bamboo, there were still situations where I played heavy. Because either we wanted Bamboo and heavy together, or we wanted heavy instead of Bamboo, and Leo would go to something else. It kind of depends on the map. So I've pretty much still played backline since then. It's just niche instead of as my main thing. But yeah, after Leo joined, there was a time period where I felt like Splatoon was taking a lot of time. There were other things I wanted to work on. So I took a break from playing competitive. I wasn't sure how long I was going to be gone. I mean, I said I might be done forever. I might be coming back. I didn't know at that time. I just wanted some time to actually work on some other things I wasn't able to work on earlier because of Splatoon taking up all my time. So that ended up only lasting like a month, which is definitely less time than I thought it would. But when I came back, my team had already been doing tryouts to find another member, and even though I came back, they still decided to find somebody new because Icy quit the team. Icy wasn't really that serious about the team, so we kind of decided as a team that he wasn't being on the team anymore. And I don't think he's played the game since then. Icy was Lekke's brother. So when the team first started, Lekke and his two brothers were both playing, but Lekke's the only one who stayed long term because he was the one who was most invested in playing Splatoon competitively. So that's around the time we really started taking things more seriously. Of course, I personally took things fairly seriously from the beginning, but like something interesting. But at the beginning, the very beginning of the team, like Matt actually told me like he'd understand it if I wanted to quit the team and find a better team later on. From the very beginning, I was pretty serious about competitive Splatoon, but their team, or Xanadu, at the beginning wasn't as serious. But of course, it was still a brand new team, so that's kind of understandable. So yeah, Icy left, and we started trying to be more serious. I kind of like experimented with different things because for a short period of time, we picked up Ember, who was a dedicated armor player. And so I kind of was trying some different things to figure out a Slayer option that I liked, just like when Matt was gone. I wanted to be able to play Slayer or support depending on who was available at the time. So that's kind of why I started playing Tri-Slosher. Which that wasn't actually the first time I played Tri competitively. I had been kind of experimenting with it as an alternative to Dynamo before I took a break. But that's kind of when I started maining Tri-Slosher. Because Tri-Slosher was the kind of weapon where I could play as a Slayer or I could play as a support because it was armor weapon that played aggro. And I ended up like kind of changing my mind about how it fits into our team comp later on, but at the time it seemed like a really good option for just being sort of an aggro support. And so I also played, like if Ember was playing with us, I would play CDS MFs that weren't as good for Tri, and if Ember wasn't with us, I'd play Zap on those maps. And then eventually we kind of decided as a team that Ember wasn't really fit for our team at the time because she was actually a really fun person to be around, which made it harder to kick her out, but she just wasn't at the level the rest of the team was at the time, so we wanted somebody more at our skill level, especially since we kind of had a goal of aiming for like Div 3, since that was shortly after, or not shortly after, but that was after Ludi. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but it was kind of over the summer. So we were back to having 4 people, but I had already like picked up Tri-Slosher at that point. And at the time, I thought Tri-Slosher was a better fit for the team than Dynamo because Dynamo was a bit slower and more control-oriented, whereas it felt like Tri-Slosher would be a better fit for our team because it pushed up more and was just faster and would keep up with the Tetras and the Bamboo Mora. Which I've kind of gone back on that, as you might have noticed by me playing Dynamo again, but at the time I thought Dynamo wasn't worth playing with our team comp, and I thought Tri-Slosher was the way to go. So I kind of became a Tri-Slosher main. Yeah, I started playing like NZAP on... I continued to play NZAP on maps that weren't as good for NZAP. And pretty much this entire time since December, I kind of played Splatoon on and off for Rainmaker. Like sometimes I'd play Splatoon on Rainmaker, sometimes I'd play like Trinova on Rainmaker, sometimes I'd play like Flings on Rainmaker. He's like the first time I picked up Flings was actually like February, I think, where I picked it up as a Rainmaker alternative to Dynamo. So I've actually played Flingza for a while, I just never really mained it until more recently. It was always just the Rainmaker alt. And there was a short period of time where I played on Clanless too. But yeah, coming back to more recent, I kind of like played Tri-Slosher as my main for a while. And that at least it lasted a decent amount of time until I kind of felt like, well, for one, I never really cared that much for Tri-Slosher anyways. It was sort of like, I kind of liked it, I kind of didn't. So I wasn't really that attached to it personally. But on top of that, just the low turf output and the lack of lethal bomb just didn't feel like it was worthwhile for a team. Especially for a weapon I didn't actually care that much about. So at that point, I kind of hit this sort of experimental phase. At first I just played Junior and NZAP for a while, which is obviously the easiest two weapons to fit into our team comp as far as more supportive role goes. Of course, this whole time I was still playing Heavy on maps where we wanted Heavy. Because, like I said, I pretty much haven't dropped Heavy for longer than a month or so, since level 10 playing Turf War with sticks. But I played Junior and NZAP for a while. I experimented with a bunch of other stuff. I tried like Ink Push and Octobrush. I tried Dapples for beacon maps. Because we kind of talked about running beacons with the Tetras, and that is actually a really good idea. It's just like I don't specifically play beacon weapons. I could play Ballpoint, but I don't like it. I specifically think Ballpoint's one of the... After I've played it so much, I would rather play most weapons in the game rather than Ballpoint. I just really don't like Ballpoint. So I was kind of experimenting with mostly Octobrush, Nuvo, and the Red Dapples for beacon options. And those are pretty interesting. I didn't end up sticking with either of them, as you might have noticed, but I think they're worth trying. And I would definitely encourage anyone who's interested to try Octobrush and Dapples, because I think they're both potentially really good weapons, especially the beacon variants. And they just kind of go underutilized. These people don't really want to play them. So yeah, after I tried a bunch of different things, I kind of talked to my team. It was just like, yeah, like armor weapons weren't just weren't feeling like my thing. I was even trying H3D at one point, even though like I've always hated H3. I don't really like what it does in a team comp. I've always just hated playing it, but I was just so uninterested in being a junior Zap main that I was trying everything. So I talked to my team, and I was just like, do we really need the armor, or can I just go back to playing Flingza? So I ended up playing Flingza again, and we ended up with like double or triple missiles. Which it seemed a bit dumb, and it is a little bit dumb, but it's like missiles isn't really a special you can have too much of. You can have 4 missiles and it's perfectly fine, as long as you have a reason to run 4 missiles. So I don't think it's worth specifically going for 4 missiles. So that's when I picked up Flingza again, and I pretty much played nothing but Flingza for a bit, and that's when we finally won Low Ink, which was like 1 month before our 1-year anniversary of the teams. It was like October Low Ink was our first ever tournament as a team, and then September Low Ink the next year was when we won Low Ink. So about a year of playing Low Ink before we became too good for it was pretty decent. I kind of wanted to be done with Link earlier, but the experience takes time. It takes a while to actually improve as a team. So we won Link. I was playing Flings at the time. I forgot to mention earlier, but we picked up Hayden after Ember left. Because we kind of started looking for another player, and we went like a month or two of just tryouts and not finding anybody until we got Hayden. So that's our full roster now. Hayden plays Shot and Umbrella. And we got Matt playing Shot and CDS. Leke plays Tetris and occasionally K-Machine. Leo plays like mostly Bamboo, but he also plays like a Splasher, 96, CDS, Luna. Like he's a Bamboo main, but he flexes to a lot of different things. And then that kind of just left me where I just picked up Flings again. I was pretty happy with it. I still like it. Like I didn't pick up Dynamo because I didn't like Flings anymore. I picked up Dynamo because it's like I felt like Dynamo was actually worth playing again. On top of playing Flingza. So more recently I started playing Dynamo and Scrims for Splatoon and Tower Control. I do think I was onto something earlier with playing Flings on Clamblitz, so now Flings is kind of like my Clamblitz pick. And I'll also play Flings on Tower Control and Splatzone's maps where I don't want Dynamo for some reason or other. And also don't want Heavy. Which is actually a decent number of maps. So in theory, I think I should still be playing Flings a bit more often than Dynamo. But my weapon pool's fairly even now. I think I play Flings more than anything else. I play Heavy less than anything else, but I still play... Like, it's pretty even between Flings, Dynamo, Sploosh, and Heavy. And yeah, I also picked up Sploosh again for Rainmaker. So we kind of had this feeling where it's just like, Flings is an interesting weapon. Because it kind of wants to stay back and support until it has a good chance to push in. And for Rainmaker specifically, it didn't feel like I was getting enough chances to safely push in with Flingza to be worth playing the weapon in our team comp. Because we usually had the Bamboo or a K-Luna spamming Fizzies being sort of our range weapon staying back, so we wanted something that could push up more often than I was with Flingza. Which is why I picked up Sploosh again. So that's kind of just where I am now. I already just went over Wi-Fi. So I'm gonna... That's gonna be it for like the history part of this. Going to the history team, I'm gonna go over some of like the miscellaneous things about my time in competitive Splatoon. Although I'm almost tempted to let this game run through. Maybe I'll do an impromptu VOD review of an old set just so that this shows up before I run off. I mean, I actually already did a VOD review on this set as my first video on my YouTube channel. Oh, that's something I could talk about, my YouTube channel and streaming. So at the time when I did a VOD review of this, I didn't have a... what's it called again? I'm dumb. A capture card. Yeah, I didn't have a capture card yet. So I got a capture card around March, the middle of March, I think. This was January, so this was just... I did a VOD review of just like the overhead, and then I got Popgun's footage from Destiny Troops, which is one of the teams we face, and they've pretty much kind of become a rival of ours since then. We've barely played them recently, but for a while we played them a bunch, as a lot of the time, at least early on, they kind of beat us most of the times, but it's still close. Whereas more recently, we've been beating them. Or I say recently, it's still been like a couple months since the last time we faced them, I think. But last time we played them, we beat them pretty well, so it's kind of It's not as one-sided in their favor as it was back in the day. But they're kind of a rival of ours. We've had a few different rivals. And some of them we've outgrown, some of them have kind of moved up with us. So yeah, I started my YouTube channel with the intention of doing VOD reviews of our sets. But then when I ended up getting a capture card, it's like I actually have my own gameplay footage to look at now. So I've still done a few kind of discussion videos on my own gameplay, but I haven't really done those kinds of VOD reviews since then because I haven't, for one, I have my own gameplay footage to look at, so I don't need to have overhead. But on top of that, like, a lot of time my team will just have like a short little discussion in our chat instead of me doing a video on my own. So yeah, I do actually intend to do more discussion kind of videos. I've got a few planned I want to do. I just haven't gotten around to anything besides some stuff keeping me from working on things for the past couple weeks. So this has kind of been a big video I've been intending to work on for a few weeks and just didn't get around to it until now. Alright, there's still 2 more minutes left in this game. Let's see what there is to talk about. Alright, this is Array, where I get to. Like, back in the day, I kind of considered myself to be like a Array specialist. I don't play it nearly enough now to still think that. Partly because, like, I decided that playing Ray in our team comp wasn't really worth it. Is it like I could do well with Ray, but it felt like it was more worthwhile for me to push up with Remix as the main weapon than it was for me to kind of like use Ray from a distance and then be stuck back in Ray after Ray's over. And there's the win. Guess I'm not gonna be talking about that. Yeah, we kind of just decided that Ray wasn't really worth it, and then once I stopped playing Ray regularly, I kind of just became rusty with it, and at this point I don't think I can play Ray as well as I used to. So even if there's a situation where it might make sense for me to play Ray, I just don't because I'm not confident enough with it now when I used to be. So now I mostly play Remix and Deco, even though I do think Vanilla Heavy is probably the strongest overall. If you can get good use out of the Ray, which I didn't feel our team was. Alright, so now on to like the weird miscellaneous stuff I was going to talk about. It's a lot of talking for me. I'm usually pretty quiet, so I don't actually talk a lot. This kind of made my voice go a little bit dry. So I'm just gonna go through like my Twitter profile pics, banners, my gear throughout the time period, like how my Inkling has looked, or Octoling in some cases. Just some miscellaneous things about my time for like a, I don't know. I just think it might be interesting. I mean, when I first started, I actually had just like a selfie as my profile pic on Twitter, which like I don't really care that much if people see me. Like, it's not like a big face reveal. People have seen my face before sometimes, but I definitely don't show it often. I've also thought about doing like a face cam at one point, but like the webcam for my PC is broken, so I'd have to figure out a way to do it with like my phone going through my computer or something. I tried figuring it out, but I just couldn't get it to work, so I might try that again, but as of right now I don't have a way to get a working webcam. Yeah, I kind of, once I started playing competitively, I kind of wanted to have something actually related to Splatoon as my Twitter photo. So that's why I switched to using this drawing I made of my Octoling playing ballpoint. Because this is my ballpoint build. I was gonna say it was my ballpoint build, but this is still technically a ballpoint build. I just don't play weapon anymore. It hasn't changed. So when I first joined the team, I was playing as an Inkling. I've pretty much played as an Inkling since I got the game. But like a short time into joining the team, just for fun, I was just like, I'll switch to an Octoling. Why not? And so for about like 6 months or so, I played as an Octoling before switching back more recently. I say recently, I think it was like a few months ago. So yeah, I made this little drawing of my Octoling. I've never really been much of an artist. Like, it's something I probably could do if I put time into it, but like I'd maybe draw one thing a year. Sometimes two, which I did actually draw 2 things last year. So that's gonna bring my next thing. I drew Hilda from Fire Emblem Three Houses. This is around when I started playing weapons other than ballpoint. So it's just like, I think it was when Matt left the team temporarily. I was playing Slayer weapons, so I wanted something other than ballpoint. I had drawn this drawing of Hilda as a Fortress Knight, because I just really like that aesthetic of like cute pink-curled girl with giant metal armor and a giant axe and a giant shield. Like, that kind of aesthetic just speaks to me. That's part of why I like Hydra, not just because it's fun to play, but because it's just like this giant weapon that the little tiny Inkling carries around. Same thing with Dynamo, it's just like, I really like the aesthetic of a small, cute girl with a giant weapon. You know? It's just my vibe. So yeah, I picked up Dynamo. I kind of want to have something related to Dynamo. So I kind of was just thinking about what to do, and I was just like, you know, I have a history of editing photos. I'll just edit something together. It's something I don't talk about very much, is I used to run a meme page for like 2 years. So I mean, I got a lot of experience just editing photos. I usually don't put that much effort into them, but it is experience. And something that kind of carried over from that page is the Burger King crown. So from the very beginning of my meme page, that I'm not gonna say the name of because it's just dead, there's nothing there anymore anyways. But I had a Burger King crown on an anime character. And that's just been my thing since then. For the past like 4 years or something. So yeah, anime crown, or Burger King crown on Fate from Lyrical Nanoha, and then Dynamo. And then when I started playing Gold Dynamo, when Neo joined the team, I wanted a Gold Dynamo one, so I did Worm. This is a fun little one I did. It didn't really last that long, it was just like a fun little thing. I was just like, Worm. With a Dynamo. And I switched over to Hat Kid from Hat in Time, because I just really like the game Hat in Time. I have played through it in its entirety a multitude of times. Not Death Wish DLC though, because that's too hard. I may play Splatoon competitively, but I do not play Hat in Time competitively. And so, I mean, around when I took a break and came back, I dropped Dynamo, and I was still trying to figure out what to play, so it's just like, I've been a heavy player since the beginning, so I can just make it heavy even though I'm not gonna play heavy very often. So that's Planano from Mahojin Guru Guru. Mahojin Guru Guru. Words are hard. And that's one of my personal favorite anime that nobody's ever heard of. Yeah. I mean, pretty much all there is to it. I do like this edit though. It just feels very complete. I had to cut out a lot and like redraw things in the background. I feel like you can't tell that some of it's original and some of it's things I drew in. And that's part of why I'm so content with this. Because there wasn't originally enough screen space, space in the image for the Splatoon to fit, so I had to actually add more to the image to the left side. And then it's the Mario from Helk wearing a Tri-Slosher on her head. Helk is a manga that I was rereading at the time. It's very good if you're into that weeb stuff. Helk is spelled H-E-L-C-K. It's a very strange name, I know. Yeah, instead of the Burger King crown, I've got the Tri-Slosher as a hat. So I figured that would be fun. And then I went to play Junior, and that's when Gas Mask happened. It's something I've wanted to do since a very early period of time, is I wanted to do Gas Mask with the Twin Tails. But I just never had a build where I had a reason to use the Gas Mask. I have it with Subsaver, but it just... Until I played Junior, I didn't have a reason to play Subsaver for anything, really. I mean, I had Sploosh, but I didn't play Sploosh. I already had a build for Sploosh done, so I didn't have a reason to make a new one just for Gas Mask. And the other thing keeping me from doing that is that the Twin Tails don't look very good with some hats, because it sounded just like... The hats that cover up the entirety of your head just make you look bald. And I wasn't particularly fond of that, so... It took me a while to have a reason to actually use this hairstyle and the Gas Mask. But good things don't always last forever, so I don't really use the Gas Mask anymore. The hairstyle sucked. This was when I played Brush for like a week. It was only like a week. This is Kukuri from Mahojin Guru Guru again. In case you can't tell, I like that series. But I just made this and it's like, it only lasted me maybe a week, and I changed to something else afterwards because I dropped Brush again for Flingsa. Now I have like Kurumi. Kurumi? Yeah, Kurumi from Gakogarashi or School Live. School Live? School Live? I never know. That's another favorite anime of mine. I have watched multiple times and read the manga of and everything. I've got a poster on my wall. So I just edited a Flingsa into her hand and put Wahoo World in the background. And that's my current profile picture. That's probably gonna stay it for at least a while. Twitter banners are gonna be more interesting because they actually show like how my Inkling looked and the gear I used, and there's also this sort of growth of my idea of how I wanted to do these. I say Twitter banner, it starts as Twitter banners, but eventually we, like the team as a whole, had like a team Twitter banner like I did. So now my Twitter banner is matching with the rest of the team. But from then onwards, I'll just use the one I use for YouTube for like the intro video. Yeah, I'm not showing every single one because there are like slight variations along the way, but this is just gonna be the main ones. I didn't start doing this until like January, so this isn't the entirety of my time in the team. It's pretty much January onwards. So at this point, I had picked up Hydra again. You can kind of see I played Ballpoint the most, But I put Hydra in the middle because I consider myself a Hydra main. Since I didn't want to be a ballpoint main. So yeah, you can see I was playing heavy deco, vanilla heavy. My Hydra build's the same as is now. My Dynamo build's the same as is now. Heavy deco builds, all these builds are the same as they are now. I might have changed a couple individual subs, but the builds as a whole are the same. I've had that heavy build since I was a casual. I just changed a few individual subs. Dino build I've changed a little bit, but it's been pretty similar to my original Dynamo build when I first started playing the weapon. So, yeah, here. This is when I first picked up Flingza. At the time I didn't run Ninja Squid on it, I ran QR, Last Ditch Effort, because I was playing on Rainmaker. So at this point I went back to just focusing on Dynamo, or not went back to, this is when I first started focusing on Dynamo. This is like a special charge build. And you can kind of tell at this time I wanted to have variety. Like I really played into like the colorful aspect of Splatoon in these early banners by having every character a different color and trying to make it vibrant. And the Octoling background is actually from like a Switch case, I think. There's a pattern I found out Switch case that I just turned into a pattern and edited. Yeah, that's when I first picked up Flingza. And here was when I switched over to Gold Dynamo because we had Leo now. You gotta see, I've got my comeback build, my stealth jump build. And those were my two main builds for a while. And you can also see, like, this whole time I've been playing as the Octoling with this hairstyle. This is probably the closest hairstyle to my actual hair in real life. So I've kind of got, like, curly, past the shoulder hair. Alright, I haven't mentioned Mini, but this is, I've kind of picked up Mini and dropped it, picked up Mini, dropped it, picked up Mini and dropped it. Never really stuck with it. It's just something that I pretty much constantly try without sticking with it. So you've kind of just see the builds. The Mini build's the same one I use now. Comeback Dynamo build, same heavy build. My Sploosh build has changed multiple times since then though. My voice is really going dry now. And here, this is why I switched back to using an Inkling. Which this was the hairstyle used from like day one of having the game. So this isn't something new, this is like going back to what I used to use. The classic Wiltsy look from before I even used the name Wiltsy. But yeah, it's the same Sploosh build, same Dynamo build, same heavy build. I did have a different build for K-Mini because I wanted Special Saver. Or more Special Saver. Use Hammer. And this is probably around when I picked up Tri-Slosher the first time. At the time, I used Tri Nouveau as a Rainmaker thing. That's when I first picked up Tri-Slosher. I played Nouveau, not Vanilla. And it was only on Rainmaker. And it was after I picked up Nouveau that I started messing around with Vanilla. And you can actually see, like, when I first played Tri Nouveau, it's the exact same build as my Sploosh build. And here's when I start playing the Flingza build I play now. So this is, Flingza's been a weapon I've dropped and picked up over and over again, along with other things. Usually as a Rainmaker thing, but I think this period of time I also played it with Clamblitz. Yeah, I think this was the time I picked it up that I also played it Clamblitz. Maybe. It's hard to remember. Yeah, that's why I first started using my main Flingza build I use now. Still using the same Dynamo and heavy builds. Then here's why I came back. Like, that was right before I took a break from the game. This is why I came back, and again, I didn't actually play heavy that much, but it was sort of the one weapon that kind of stayed with me. I had just picked up Tri and CDS. Well, not really. Because both these weapons I played in the past, but this is when I really first started maining the two of them. Not that I mained CDS for that long. And then I kind of changed the format. I mean, you can probably see that I changed the format when I switched to an Inkling. Because I just wanted a different background. Yeah, there's also the name. Like, you can see that change over time. It's pretty interesting to see. Yeah, I switched over to this format for a little bit of time. This is my Tri-Slosher and NZAP build. If I remember right, I used the same build for both. It's been a couple months now. Yeah, you can see Tri-Slosher, NZAP, Heavy, Sploosh. Again, I pick up and drop Sploosh like every other month at this point. These days I feel like I should just stick with it, and I mean, just in general I feel like I should just stick with my weapon pool. Especially since I've pretty much just gone back to playing my old weapon pool. Yeah, this is why I played Junior. Again, I kind of went for this creepy cute aesthetic with the gas max and twin tails. Although the actual shirt and shoes I changed like a day after I made this. Because this was my double bomb Junior build. But I ended up deciding instead of double bomb to run special charge. And so I ended up changing my build like a day later, but I still use this for the title card anyways. And that's also why I changed like the music opening for my videos. And I switched back to Flings Up. I kept the background and everything, even though it didn't really fit this aesthetic so much. And then just this weekend I switched over to this, which is it's pretty much my old look, but with my current Inklings. Because of course when I switched over to Juniors, when I started using the twin tails, and even though I don't use the gas mask now, I decided to stick with it. I like this look. Honestly, I think like this Dynamo build is honestly one of my favorite builds I've had in the game. I don't know why, just something about that build really appeals to me. It's just sort of this like schoolgirl with the goggles. It's just like, well, maybe not schoolgirl, but it's kind of got that sailor uniform, along with the more steampunky kind of pilot goggles. Maybe not steampunk, but you know what I mean. So that kind of aesthetic is something I've always liked about that build, but I feel like this hairstyle is the best hairstyle to go with this build I've had. It just feels like it fits the build so much better than the other hairstyles I've used. And I got the circle shades. I do actually have sunglasses like this in real life. And heavy build's the same one I've used since the very beginning. I just have remix instead of vanilla since I stopped playing vanilla. That's probably gonna be it. I kind of go over my builds in this. I was gonna go over my builds separately to kind of look at it, but I mean this kind of covered it. That's been my year of playing Splatoon competitively. And I mean, I intend to keep going. Right now, my team's kind of estimated for Div 3. Because we're banned from low rank, we're good enough that we kind of do pretty well against other teams that are estimated for Div 3. So I'd say we're about even with other teams who are either Div 3 or probably Div 3. Because, I mean, it's been long enough since the last Ludi that a lot of people have improved. And I'm pretty content with my weapon pool. Now that I've actually returned to my old weapons. Alright. Again, I do plan on doing more, like, competitive discussion videos about various different things. And so if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can look forward to that. And then on top of that, I'll also be continuing doing my scrim and tournament uploads. So, see you soon.